Well, I was quite interested when Egon called and told me he was going to do this presentation, because I've always enjoyed listening to Egon talk about the history of the fire department. And I'd sent an email to Barbara and asked her if it was going to be videotaped, because when you see Egon, you know he's not getting any younger, so we want to make sure it was getting recorded. But I started on the DOE Fire Department in August of 1976, and during my time frame through there, I served under Egon, and he was my lieutenant. And in my note to Barbara, I told her Egon was one of the best lieutenants that I served under. He was always making sure that we were trained, we knew what we were going to do on responses. He'll probably touch a little bit on the training aspects of our department, but now that I think the training has really been enhanced in the skill level of the firefighters that are currently working at the INL. It has vastly improved. Egon was always one of those that always wanted you to learn, to do your best. And like I said, he was always one of those that I could always count on. He would never send us into a situation that we couldn't come out of. He took care of his men, and I always appreciated knowing that, serving on his crew, and that always made me feel good. But anyway, he's a great guy, and I like the heck out of him. I'm glad I had the chance to work with him. This is my agent's prop.
And that's what you heard in the
That's
fire
what
station.
the alarm center would have, a tone that would go off when the alarm activated, and that code 221 was the code that he heard when the alarm went off at SL-1.
Okay, good lunchtime to all you folks here today. It's nice to be here and talk with you, and what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the disaster that happened at the INL years ago. Okay, there. Yeah, now we got it. A disaster that happened, most of you know about it. I was a young man when that happened, and fortunately I survived the incident, and I'm here to tell you about it today. Let's go back just a little bit here before I get started on that. I made a career out of being a fireman. For whatever reason, I'm not sure, but anyway, I did, and I started out in Blackfoot soon after I got out of high school with the Blackfoot Fire Department. And then, well, let's go back before that. Even before that, I was monkeying around with the fireman thing because I had a fire engine pedal car that I pedaled up and down the sidewalk. So somewhere around, something happened up here. I thought I should be a fireman. And that's what started the whole thing, I guess. And so I had a friend in Blackfoot who was a site fireman at the time, and we got to talking around, and he says, why don't you consider being, and we joked about this, an atomic fireman? And I don't know. And he says, you'll be more than pleased if you decide to do that. And so I thought about it for a little bit, and I says, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I made application, and in 3 months I was on the site fire department. That would have been in 1959 is when I started out there. At that era, the fire department was quite in its infancy at that time, and they had a lot to learn, and they did through the years. Well, I stayed there until 95, and then I left. Well, I stayed at the site until 95, and then I left, and I decided I'd do something besides just going out and back on the bus. So the wife and I has traveled a little bit, and I've followed my hobbies in the car world, and that's worked out very good. During that time, of course, when I was out there, I saw a lot of innovations, a lot of nuclear advancements, something that nowhere else in the world has things like that happen. And I've lost out on it now, but I'm sure things are going ahead now in the space industry, and batteries we're building now. What a bunch of brilliant people work for the INL. At that time it was the Atomic Energy Commission, and that was fine. For some reason, and I'm going to have to say part of it was because of the SL-1, they kind of deleted the word atomic off of a lot of their nomenclatures, as I noticed through the years. We changed several names as we went along, and they kind of deleted the atomic and the reactor names for that. Now you've got INL. So we're on a different course, but for somewhere along the line, they decided, maybe this is not good right now, and so they changed the name a little bit. So, what I was going to say is, but a life of a fireman is just a little bit different than other occupations. Like a police officer, we have emergencies, we have hazards and things like that. So it's a different occupation than most people going to and from work, but that's okay. We choose to do what we want to do, and in this case I chose to be a fireman, and that worked. In the early days of the fire department out there, we had a chief that was, what should I say, city-oriented. He came from Oregon. He had never been exposed to anything like he was exposed to here. And his thinking was that he wanted to teach us to be more of a city fire department rather than an industrial fire department where we would be involved with chemicals, where we involved, I guess, here in radiation. We got very little training, and that wasn't a good thing. He isn't here today, so I can criticize him because he can't come back and get me, and he can't fire me. I've retired. He probably did the best he could in his mindset. We fought more big fires out there in burn pits and things like that than you would ever believe. But we did not get the training we should have had in the nuclear world. And that could have really been serious, because when the SL-1 accident happened, we luckily walked in on it, and we did a few things we shouldn't do. But that's okay. I survived it, and life goes on. While I was out there, did a lot of investigating and talking around, see what was going on out there, and that was part of my interest in doing that. We worked a 72-hour work week, and that, if you include the driving, there was 84 hours I was gone from home every week. But I chose to do that. The fire stations, let me see if I can work this. This was the early fire station. It was built in probably about mid-50s, early 50s, mid-50s. And it was quite a place. As you notice, some of the equipment there is now they're collector's items, if any of them was left. Right here is where the alarm room was that